We're coming back in real quick. I want to go ahead and drop a quick shout out to the sponsor of Inspire Challenge Podcast. This company helped start the podcast, funded the equipment, and also my expenses for a few months. So major shout out to Lending Source Financial. Lending Source Financial is a company of a married man and woman, my uncle and aunt. They act as the liaison, I love that word, where basically they help to fund small business owners or people that have business ventures. So if you're a person, you've got some type of expedition you're trying to do, and you want to have a direct relationship with the people helping you with your financing, they are super willing to get on. My uncle's a talker. He'll sit down with you and talk with you for 2 hours if it takes that. Super awesome. So feel free to check out Lending Source Financial. The link is in the description of every piece of content that's ever released on this channel. Also, make sure to subscribe to Inspire Challenge Podcast on YouTube. Follow at Instagram, and also follow on, what else am I on? TikTok. There we go. Follow on all those social medias. We're working on throwing up a Facebook business page, working on getting some groups set up on these different social medias. And also, for anybody interested in delving into the deeper thoughts of Devontae Colonel, I'll be starting up a blog series soon. This will cover things like men crying and how should that look? Is it okay to cry in public, in front of certain people? What does it look like? Also, I'll be covering things as far as depression, anxiety, fear, these things that come up that men deal with on a regular basis that there are so many conflicting sources on, giving you my take on it. That'll be coming very soon as well through the website. And there's going to be something coming up also in the pipeline. We are about to reach our 100th piece of content in video form released on the Inspire Challenge Podcast channel. Thank you, Kendra. Also, we're at 85 subscribers. That means 100 subscribers is right around the corner, and I'll be doing an announcement for something special going on for that one. And also, make sure, before we get back into this conversation, Mr. Kendrick here, he's on all social medias. You can follow him on Instagram at KCreative. You can follow him at Kendrick White for his personal, and he's on got to be a whole host of other things.
Well, I'm very private, so I don't have too many. But I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. Probably Instagram's the primary one. But yeah, I'm there. Kendrick White. Same thing on Facebook. And then K Creatives Media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Yeah. All of it, guys.
All the things.
Go check it out. Follow him. Give him a like. And leave a comment on something you liked about this interview, All right, so let's get back into it. We were talking about, what was the last thing we talked about, Kendrick?
Oh, so many things. We were talking about setting up that foundation.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. So for you, you've been setting up your foundation for these things with pretty much everything that you've done now.
Yeah.
And also, now these things have all been underneath K Creative in a consistent fashion. But as far as I know, there's an evolution preparing to occur.
Yeah.
So
before I talk about that evolution, I think it's important to note that none of those things were perfect. Mm-hmm. And that success is really relative, and it depends on how you want to frame that and look at that. Right. Success is not always a monetary value. Everything for me has always kind of been purpose and impact.
Right.
And I think focusing on that is why I've been able to keep moving forward. And I always say I don't make a lot of money, but I've always made more money than the previous year.
Man, that's a pretty dang good way to know. They say if you want to improve, always just be 1% better every day.
That's all it takes is, kind of always trying to be better. And so if I continue at this rate, one day I'll be a millionaire. But yeah, it's not the money. I don't focus on that when I go into these things. It's the opportunity, it's the impact, and that's what I lead with. So I've been able to do all of these different things. There's been failures, there's been loss, there's been some success and wins. But it's continued to evolve, and I've been open to that evolution. So I did last year, I closed the tutoring portion of my business.
Okay.
And that was for a couple reasons. I think even backing up a little bit, COVID. We're all aware of that. And I was preparing, like I said, I had my tutoring company. I stopped, I brought it back, I rebranded, and then COVID happened. So in the midst of me going through a long foundation phase, and at that point I was beginning to then...
Also, real quick note to my editor. I'm not totally sure how YouTube feels about COVID, so just as a safety precaution, go ahead and edit out that word as he says it.
Okay.
But you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
So, preparing for that, and then I completely have to pivot because I offered in-person services. So, having to pivot, I transitioned my company to virtual tutoring services. So it was, again, even though I just spent this whole time setting up the foundation for a relaunch, we're having to pivot again. So it hasn't always been easy. There's still stuff you have to figure out, no matter how much time you spend, setting up, which is why you can't get stuck there, because there's still going to be things that happen along the way.
And that's a great point. Like, if you spend so much time trying to make it perfect, the landscape changes a little bit, and now you're like, oh crap, and I don't even have anything to kind of fall on now.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what kind of happened or would have happened. I spent all this time saying, okay, I have K Creatives now. If I'm going to bring the tutoring portion back in, how do I make that a part of the K Creatives family? And setting up that, the language and the website and branding it under, K Creatives. So that was a long period of time.
Yeah.
All for me to then have to still do it again.
Yeah.
So I moved forward. But because I had that foundation, I was able to do that quickly.
Okay. Yeah.
So you still need that balance.
Right.
Transition to virtual services. And at that point, I'm hiring, for part-time tutors so that I can focus on the business piece of that. I say all that to say.
Wait, you were hiring people?
Yes.
What? You got to the point where you were hiring people in the company?
Yes.
That's not okay. So you had some solid growth in there where you could hire some people to do it.
Yes and no. I knew that in order for me to kind of move forward at a certain point, I could not be the person that was sitting there earning dollar for a minute tutoring, because then there's no time to focus on the client piece of that, the finance piece of that, or deciding what's next. So I had plans to implement these new processes or pieces to kind of help scale. So I needed to hire so that people could do that. And since I was going to be in a virtual space, that kind of made that easier in a sense. So yeah, I did. I'm not going to say I was making all this money, but also key was cost low so that you can eventually have 100%. Profit high.
And I get that too, because like I said, I just made a note to my editor that is an editor that I have in some capacity, and the podcast isn't super expensive, but it's man, when this person is here doing this, I've been able to do 3 interviews this week because I have an editor who can go and chop it up, which allows me to go and set up more interviews. So
it frees up your time. At a certain point, you have to be able to delegate things out. Now, granted, it's not lost on me that with what I was doing, specifically in tutoring, if I have a client, then I'm making money.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit different. I don't have to worry about that piece. If they're not booked for a service and they're not making money. So now you still have to be able to, keep up with that. And there are operating expenses. And then once you are paying someone, whether the parent pays on time or not, that your staff still have to be paid. But so there is a piece of that. But it is helpful in that space. So I did have that to my advantage. So I didn't have to be at a space where I was making X amount of dollars to just bring on someone. Yeah. So that's a little bit of a different scenario. But yes, I did get to the point where I knew I wanted to hire out, and I did. So and that brings on its own challenges, dealing with other people and their schedule. Their life becomes your life, and their problems are your problems. And it's a whole different beast. And then setting up direct deposits and all of that stuff. So that did evolve. But I also got to the point where I was going to, launch these new pieces of that brand. And where I had already pivoted and offer these new products and services to bring in, new business and new income. So I spent another foundation phase. What are we at? Take 3 with just this one, where I needed to establish. But because I had set up, to allow people to do that, I had the time to then work, invest in figuring out what that looks like. So I'm getting to the point where I'm going to now launch these products, and then my grandfather passes away on the weekend that I was getting ready to launch. Wow. So no matter what you do, no matter how much you prepare, no matter how much of a foundation you have, life still happens. So that completely disrupted, what was happening business-wise, and now I'm just focusing on, the personal life side, the human side. So just, like I said, there's balance with everything you do. And so I say all this to say that this was all a part of the evolution of me getting to where I'm at now. And eventually, fast forward, I did have staff. I didn't launch some of those things. I just kind of I went back to the drawing board. I had staff that moved on. They were, whether it was they're in college and they graduated and then they adult world and they have a job and they moved on. So once I kind of had I had 2 tutors at that point. And once they got to the point where they moved on, we phased out their clients. And I made the decision to close that part of my business because there were just all these things that were happening. And I just made the decision, or I knew that I didn't want to, or I wasn't then investing the time to then scale that and keep it going. I got it to a point where I wasn't putting money into it.
Okay, that's a whole
that's a whole beast on its own, right?
Sure.
Starting out, you're putting money into things, and teaching is what allowed me to then fund and put money into my tutoring business. And I got it to the point where yes, the money is there enough to pay the staff, cover all the operating expenses, but it's not necessarily making money. Now you have to then scale it and continue to grow that revenue. And I decided I didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to invest the time, and I wasn't, because things were happening. So I stopped. Initially that felt like a loss, felt like a failure, because you spend all this time doing something, but I had to do what felt right at the time. And so that was, I don't know, last year, February. And then from February till like summer was kind of the phase out of that. But I made that decision in February. And it wasn't an easy decision. And I kind of was forced into it because I had a certain timeline once that second person, was leaving. So I actually posted the job. I had to you have to post it now to give yourself the opportunity to even make a decision.
Right.
Or otherwise it's like a no, because there was just only so much time based on where we were at. But I posted it, got all these resumes, and then decided to pull the plug. And then fast forward to...
You end up having to pay for every person that responds to it, right? Like they charge you per response or something like that?
No. I think I forget where I posted it. I posted in a couple places, but I think it was free.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't have to worry about that. Or I only had like the free versions because spend your money wisely, people.
Heck yeah.
But I pull the plug, and then I fast forward to, summer, where it's coming up on, making a decision as far as teaching. And then I decided to kind of end that chapter. So I closed the tutoring business. Then I decided to stop teaching.
So right now, that's not what you do now.
No, I have none of those things. So for the first time in this story and this journey, I don't have anything to do. Granted, I still have my full-time job. I still have a corporate job.
Yeah.
But from the time I was 16, I've always had all of these projects going on, multiple things, whether it was paid, volunteer, whatever. So this is the first time where I've had nothing. And I say nothing, I'm discounting the fact that I still have a full-time job, but nothing for me. Because one job, that's I do that easily. I'm used to having 5 things to focus on. So this is easy.
So I think I had lost it. I thought that the district job was the corporate job that you had met. And
yes, I did have that. Eventually I got, I wanted to continue growing, more money, growth in career. So I left that school district and I got another job. Sorry, I probably left that out. But yeah, so now I still work in education, still finance.
Okay.
So I'm still doing that. I just got a promotion, different company type deal. Yes. So I was still doing both of those at the same time. And that's been constant. I just kind of closed those other chapters along the way. And so I had time to sit with all of that and figure out, well, what is it you want to do? And I did the very thing that I tell people never to do. I'd say never let anything paralyze you to the point where you just stop and you do nothing. Because even if you're not sure, or even if you're scared, if you take baby steps along the way, at least you're progressing forward. Now do it wisely, do it smartly, but still take those steps. And I didn't do that. So that goes against the very nature of what I would always tell people to do. But I think for the season that I was in, that was necessary. I needed some time to just stop, because some of the things that I'm moving forward, and as we kind of talk about the evolution of what this is, goes back to 2021. These are thoughts, these are ideas that were there in the pipeline then, but I didn't act on. So I had time to realize, what is it that I want to do? Where do I want to go? Do I at all? You still have a job. You still have a full-time job. You could just be a normal person and just chill out for a little while. But I
enjoying wine on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah, that seems like it would be fun. But I didn't, sometimes they're just things that you feel like you want to do or you should do. And you kind of just have to lean into that. And so now that's what I'm doing now. Having that time off allowed me to sit with it and decide that, yes, you want to focus on some of those things. And again, it's not for a monetary value. It's just for purpose and impact and things that you feel led to do. And so I still have K Creatives in a sense, but I am, with all of those other chapters closed, I'm rebranding and relaunching that as K Creatives Media. Because I can't get rid of the K Creatives. Yeah. Yeah, and K Creatives Media is going to launch next year. So that's the goal. That's the hope. So I'm back in that foundation phase.
Oh, man.
Where we are, developing and setting up. And so the whole point of that is to be in a space where I can put out and produce digital content.
Okay.
And we want to create safe spaces to explore people and their stories and their perspectives. And that can come in various forms of digital content or events. But that's kind of the lane that I'm headed in. It's just, being able to do that. I've learned a lot of things along the way. I've met a lot of people. There's so much that happens in the world, but I just kind of want to create a space where things are positive. And we are just putting out good. So if we can put out something that is good for even one person, then we've done a good job.
So when you say like something that looks to like share people's stories and like puts out positivity, do you mean things that are like skits that do things, or do you mean like something maybe even a little similar to this right here, where it's like sitting with people, talking with people?
Absolutely. So that can be podcasts, that can be digital content in the form of interviews, panels, roundtables, discussions, shorts, series, documentaries, like vlogs.
Right.
Everything in the world of like digital content, where we can get people together and we can get people to talk and share, because we all have, these experiences and these perspectives that are shaped on our own upbringing or our own experiences.
Absolutely.
And that forms who we are today. But I think the thing that we miss is kind of that understanding or that empathy for my experiences are very different from yours.
Yeah.
So we may have different opinions, we may have different views, but I should be able to hear you and see you and understand what you're saying, whether I agree or disagree.
Yeah.
There's just that like common ground that I feel is missing. And so I want to...
Kind of the humanity in conversation
absolutely,
is gone.
The humanity of it all. And so I want to be able to create spaces where people can have those conversations. And it could be something as simple as just getting to know someone and understanding them a little bit more and exploring that. Or it could be two people having a conversation like we're having right now.
So as you say this, I had a thought. I have a very... something that, if you're interested in, this very interesting person. I know a gentleman that we're going to be having an interview in like the first week of August, Friday or Saturday, or October, sorry. And they're into tarot card reading. And that is like, all of my beliefs are opposite of that. And so opposite that like, I'm like, and I found several pieces of like scripture that because I refer to the Bible that are like, no, that is demonic, that is abominable. But we're gonna sit down and we're gonna have that conversation. And I was telling him like, if I'll see if people want to come and talk to you and see about that. I've got some people from my church that would be interested. I don't know if you'd be interested in that, but if so, then open invitation to you, man.
Let's do dates when we finish, because I will be away one of those weekends, I think, at the beginning of October. So, but yeah, I'm open, because I think, like you said, it goes against your beliefs, but can you still hear them?
Right.
Can you still be open to what they have to say? Your beliefs don't change because you hear them. And you have an understanding of where they're coming from. So,
and it's about creating that bridge where, like, even if our beliefs are different, like, can the humanity in between us meet and say, like, well, even if I disagree with that thing, I understand why that thing appeals to you.
Right. Understand that and that's okay. I learned about that. I learned what, that connection that you have to it. We don't have to be best friends. You don't have to explore it, but you made space for, for them. That's really all that I feel like matters. Is kind of connecting those dots of humanity and just sharing out kindness at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's what I aim to kind of do through this.
Awesome, man. And so you say it'll be launching in January, was it?
That's my goal. I have a pretty aggressive goal and a pretty tight timeline, but my goal is to start introducing pieces of this in January 2024.
So I'm curious, what are you looking at as like the first project or the first like piece that comes out representative of K Creative Media?
There's a couple. One that I'm working on that I won't go too much into because I want to reveal,
right.
In the right way. But one will be a campaign that's focused on giving and charity and just how we can kind of create a trickle-down effect of giving and kindness. So I know that is one of the first things up on the list for January that I will introduce. And then outside of that, I'm still working on figuring out kind of all of these pieces. I let myself spend some months just figuring out concepts and ideas.
Right.
So right now I'm spending the time to like really farm those out so I can then go into a little bit of production and then get them done, which is why I say it's a very aggressive timeline because that is right around the corner.
It is.
And I'm farming out kind of like what the whole year looks like. But some of it
whole year as in all of 2024?
Yes. Because I want things to be done in the right way, and I will need the space to continue production as the year goes. So I can't do January things in production in January because they need to be done and ready. So I'm just focusing on the top of the year and getting those initial things. So that giving campaign, some interviews and maybe some discussions and roundtables will probably be the first thing to expect from us at the top of the year.
Interesting.
Yeah, as we work on some more stuff and then hopefully, a podcast and blog and some other stuff.
So, okay, I'm gonna dig as much as I can until I hit like a hard wall. So when it comes to like some of these round tables and things like that, interviews that you may do, what do you think the focus of those things would be like? Do you have like a topical idea in mind already, or like a theme?
There's not one thing. So nothing's really off limits. I want the focus and the theme is that humanity, that connection, those conversations. That's really it.
Okay.
How we do that and how we facilitate it is up for grabs.
Okay.
So it may be, that this season or this series of it is one topic. And then we'll do it again after that with a completely different topic.
Okay.
But just exploring different life themes, and that could be something very simple as fear, success, love, parenting, career. Those are all simple topics.
Yeah.
But we can explore, people's experiences through that. I'm looking to do some things where we're able to highlight, some local businesses or entrepreneurs and explore their journey. Because through that conversation and exploring people's journeys, we're able to understand them more and relate and find pieces of ourselves in that, whether it's something you're doing and, you can find inspiration and advice there, or maybe it's something you want to do and you get pieces that way. So I'm looking to do that and kind of create some panels and events around, business and entrepreneurship. So yeah, it's there's going to be a lot of stuff.
Awesome.
But no specific topic. It's not, like, oh, we're just going to do, this one series about this topic.
Yeah.
Everything's up for conversation.
Awesome, man. Heck yeah. Well, you've got at least one subscriber as soon as it all drops. I'll be waiting. I'll be checking it out, and I'll be liking it all.
I'm sure I'll give you some scoops along the way about what's coming.
Let's go.